The Last Clue is a production of Smith Media Team, LLC. Listener discretion is advised, mostly because of me.
You know where we're going today?
Are we going on a readventure?
We are going on a read venture. We're gonna go see your cousin from Boston.
That's the funniest thing to listen to. I mean, don't get me wrong. We're going to talk about the retrial of Karen Reed, but one of the funniest things to me is just to listen to that courtroom. I never knew that the word car had 4 A's in it.
And
It's
don't
great.
forget the couple of H's. I personally am enamored with that accent. I could listen to somebody from Boston speak all day long. I really do love it. But we got a lot to unpack.
And see, that's one of the reasons one of my guilty pleasure movies is Sandra Bullock and Melissa McCarthy in The Heat.
That was such a funny movie. You know I
Because
love Melissa McCarthy.
well, and I love her family because her family is very stereotypical typical
Mhm.
Boston. So that's one of my guilty pleasure films for those of you scoring at home or even if you're alone.
Sometimes it's better that way.
Wow.
I know. But Karen Reed is back on trial for the murder of her then boyfriend, John O'Keefe, who
And
happened to be a Boston police officer.
here's a shocker. The jury is trying to make a decision, and I seem to remember in 2024 the jury tried to make a decision and they couldn't come to one. So we had a mistrial. So we're doing this
Mhm.
all over again. This is so great for the lawyers. And don't get me started because I'll go off on a rant. But the I believe that there are cases, small and big, where the judge and the attorneys are in it just for the money. The money and the publicity. If there's publicity involved, sure, but they're in it for the money. That's all they're in it for. There are some scumbag attorneys down
Yeah.
there. I
Well,
could start in DFW, but let's go.
yeah. Well, hence the reason they call them ambulance chasers.
Oh, don't get me started on that
I'll
guy.
try.
Yeah.
I'll try. I'll try. I'll try. But so jumping in, Karen Reed is accused of murdering her boyfriend at the time, John O'Keefe, who was a Boston police officer, and this happened back in January of 2022. Um, After a night of drinking and then going to a party at the house of their friends. One of them that was also a police officer,
Brian Albert,
Brian Albert. Yes. So,
not Fat Albert.
no, but obviously very close knit, intertwined relationships within the community and such. And anytime you've got a fallen brethren, there's going to be some heat. Pardon the pun.
I would, at this point, like to thank my high school football coach, the late, great Eddie Paul, who told me at a very young age nothing good happens after midnight. If there are any youth within the sound of my voice, please listen to me. Nothing good happens after midnight. We we like to go out. We enjoy it, except for the people, but we enjoy it. But we're home at a decent hour because we know what happens out there. There's idiots. There's idiots
Everywhere.
everywhere. Okay, sorry.
Yes. Well,
Mini rant.
you're not wrong. My dad taught me the same thing growing up. So
Thank you, Coach Paul.
thanks, Dad. Happy Father's Day. Um, so anyway, after leaving a bar, they went to the party at the home of after party, Brian Albert, his wife, so on and so forth. And Karen could not, there were no vehicles in the driveway, anything of the sort. So Karen sent John in, or John offered to go in, make sure everything was okay. They're at the right house, so on and so forth. John did not come back out to the car. Karen was angry and ended up leaving him there.
And there's only two people that know what happened in that vehicle, whether Karen dropped John off, whether John got out voluntarily. There's only two people in the
Sure.
world that know, and now there's only one.
Right. So she was apparently, allegedly, waiting for him to come back out. He never came out. She got angry, left. Any case, they found his body in the snow the next day, deceased. So let's dive into some of the people and the details of what's going on in this trial, because I feel like most everybody knows about Karen Read and what this trial is about.
And for our female listeners out there, and we appreciate every single one of you. I mean, thank you for all the comments, emails, etc. that we get every time that we podcast. We promise to do it more regularly, but if you're a female that's been in any type of serious relationship, I'm talking to all of you. There has been a point, most likely, I would say 99%, there has been a point where you've been drinking, you've been upset with your man or woman, and said some things that you wish you hadn't said, because there's a lot of focus on what she said when about the voicemail, and I apologize for the language, but but I mean honestly, the main one, you're a fucking loser, fuck yourself, John, I fucking hate you. I get that. I mean, when you've been drinking and you get disappointed, there stuff flies out of your mouth. It's just part of it.
It does, especially when they're not returning calls, they're not returning texts, anything like that. The mind goes, especially if you're an overthinker, whatever. You're angry, you're yelling, all the things.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
But no, in any case,
I keep derailing you. I'm sorry. I'm going to stay on track.
It's fine.
Thomas the Tank Engine. I got it.
Chugga chugga choo choo.
Wow.
But so here we are back on trial, because in the first case they couldn't come to an agreement, so we had a hung jury.
And so, in the first case, she was charged with second-degree murder, manslaughter while operating under the influence, and leaving the scene of a fatal collision. Those were the charges in the first case.
I believe those are still the charges.
I'm sure they are.
And the jury apparently was able to unanimously acquit her of 2 of those charges, but they weren't sure how to communicate that with the judge at the time. So we ended up with hung jury, because apparently they had to be unanimous on all 3 charges.
I can't imagine a judge not listening.
Oh, no, I can't imagine either. So some of our main players in this are, as we said, Brian Albert, who was a police officer at the time, now retired. His wife didn't have much to say, a lot to go on in the trial, but a mutual friend, Jen McCabe, and then a couple of police officers, main one being Michael Proctor.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get into these players. So we know the charges against Karen. So what's her defense?
You can't do that to me, by the way. You can't drop the name Michael Proctor and expect me not to go full Police Academy. Proctor! Sorry.
Another guilty pleasure there. Or is that just a man movie?
I am derailing this podcast. I will not be on the next podcast. She will be doing this solo, because I have derailed this to the point of no return.
That's also a lie. But the defense in this case is that she's being framed by several people, including law enforcement. They say that O'Keefe was actually killed in a fight inside Brian Albert's home, then dragged outside. They're attempting to show that during Read's first trial, that Jen McCabe played a key role in what they say was part of the cover-up, because in the first trial, Jen McCabe, gave her testimony, but in the second trial, she is saying that she specifically heard Karen say, "I hit him, I hit him, I hit him," which she never said in the first trial. And apparently there were some screenshots that Karen, or not Karen, that Jen had sent to her family and friends, people that were at this location, which the defense is trying to say was kind of getting everybody on the same page, for lack of better words. So that's part of the defense in showing that there is cover up and framing, including the law enforcement. So
Well, and that goes back to, again, there's good brotherhood and there's bad brotherhood.
for real,
Just in any instance, in any small town, any big town, you've got good law enforcement and you've got poor law enforcement. So
true.
one of the focuses when it started in April, was that there was a paramedic who also claimed that he heard a female say, I hit him, I hit him. And the defense was quick to say, he's changed his story
Right.
a couple of times. And that's kind of what we're dealing with here. You've got a gaggle of law enforcement officers that are right here on the scene of a murder, and it's not found until the next morning.
Hmm. Yes. And everybody has their opinion about this.
Mhm.
And I'm typically one of those that's like, oh, the defense is absolutely right. But then they go into the prosecution and I'm like, oh, they're absolutely right. So I kind of want to stick to kind of what I just have some questions and things that I want to point out that have been brought up that have me doing the whole side eye Scooby shake.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Jen McCabe was obviously one of them, since her story kind of changed a little bit, and they're talking about the screenshots. I also want to ask about Michael Proctor.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, you have to say it now.
Proctor
And Brian Albert. So
Albert.
yes, so we have a dead police officer on another police officer's lawn. Brian Albert is now retired, but knowing that he had a dead police officer on his lawn, there was going to be this whole investigation. I'm not sure if anybody has actually listened to or read through, having listened to or watched the trial, but Brian Albert decided it was time to upgrade his phone.
Curious.
Yes, so being a police officer, riddle me this, Batman. Why would you decide to get rid of your phone one day before they are asking, what's it called? One day before he was given a preservation order for his data, is what it's called.
Because he's hiding evidence. There's evidence on that old phone. He knew there was evidence on that old phone, and now most likely that evidence is gone unless I missed something.
No, and Brian Albert testified that O'Keefe never entered his home the night of his death. So again, we don't know. We've got people that have been drinking. We've got a dead police officer. We don't know, but I just find it really suspect that a police officer gets rid of his cell phone one day before he was given a preservation order for his data, and that he said he was upgrading his phone because it was failing. I don't believe in coincidence.
No, there's no coincidence here. There was something on that phone, or some things on that phone, that he didn't want anybody in the world to see. Most likely, also his wife.
Quite possible. We don't know. So I mean, for me, that's a really strong argument, because you don't do that during a homicide investigation. You don't. You just don't. So
yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. If you're trying to hide evidence, if there's something on your phone that is going to send you to the hoosegow for 20 years, you goddamn right you get rid of that fucking phone. I would.
yeah, there's more holes in that than a fishnet catching minnows.
Yeah,
So,
he's a moron.
yeah, well,
Allegedly. I have to say that.
you do. You do. But also what was interesting is we're getting to Michael Proctor, but
Proctor.
yeah, um, Brian Albert's brother is also a police officer,
Hmm.
Kevin Albert.
Hmm.
So Kevin Albert and Michael Proctor, while working the case, were allegedly drinking together. And at one point, like a day after or so, Kevin Albert sent text messages mentioning that he left his gun and badge in Proctor's cruiser after they had been having dinner and drinking while working the case on the job.
And I have worked in places where if you have your work laptop and you decide to stop at Starbucks on the way into work or stop at Whataburger on the way home, you are either under company policy, you are supposed to carry that laptop with you inside, or you are supposed to secure it in your trunk. Those are the only two acceptable means. And this is a laptop. A laptop won't kill anybody unless you throw it or bash
Hmm.
somebody hard enough. I know. Well, the old laptops would. The laptops these days, they're not
Yeah.
going to hurt anybody. The bricks that we used to carry around.
Yeah.
Remember the first cell phone?
Yes.
you could you could bash somebody's skull in with one of those.
Well, first you had to unplug it from the cigarette lighter and take it out of its suitcase and whip it. Anyway, I
My
digress.
my grandmother used to go to the garage on her car phone that was in the bag,
Hmm.
and she would call us either after 8 or 9 p.m. because the minutes were free.
Yes.
She would sit in the garage on the phone with the damn car running and the garage door shut. My granddad got a hold of her, said, "No, you can't do you understand carbon monoxide?" And she had no clue. Carbon monoxide was something she put in her hair after the hairdresser. Anyway.
Anyway, well,
Sorry.
Grandma loved you.
She did. I mean, she called us all the time, but she called us from that bag car phone. Kids,
Don't do this at home.
there was a time when there were car phones that were actually in like a leather type bag that sat on your console, that you it had a cord that you never mind. I'll have you look it up on the inner Googles.
Yes, the worldwide inter Googles.
Okay.
So we've got family involved here.
Of
We've
course.
got Brian Albert, Kevin Albert, both police officers. One of them out drinking with the lead investigator, Michael Proctor, on
Hmm.
the case
Hmm.
on the job,
Makes perfect sense.
where he leaves his gun and a badge in Proctor's cruiser. So, I mean, lead investigator on a case, wouldn't you think Michael Proctor would be kind of an upstanding kind of guy?
Well, you would think, but you've got it on both sides because there was evidence presented about mid last year about Karen Reed sending flirty text or vice versa to the ATF agent, that Brian Higgins guy, that they were flirting back and forth. So I mean, you've got there there are three motives in any crime: money, sex, revenge. That's it. Notice I didn't mention love at all, because you don't kill somebody you love, or you don't kill. It's money, it's sex, it's revenge. That's it. You follow those three trails, you're gonna find your answers to any any true crime.
Basically, you're basically right. And oh, there's so much here, but um, I'm kind of trying to keep it like in. I don't want to say in the family business, but that's kind of where it goes, where the whole Brian and Kevin Albert police family thing. And then Michael Proctor comes in, lead investigator, drinking on the job, and sending texts. I guess somebody had a group text going and people wanting to know what's going on in the investigation. And of course, he can't give out a whole lot of information. However, one of the things I recall hearing while we were watching the trial on TV, mostly listening, was somebody had asked if he had seen any nudes of Karen Reed, and he had responded, "No nudes at this time." Um,
At least he didn't respond, "Who hasn't?"
well, I mean, it's quite
Because
possible.
that because that documentary didn't do her any justice at all. I mean, and if you have not spent more than 15 minutes in Boston, you will very rarely hear me say this. Don't comment on this podcast, because I have spent time in Boston a few times, and that is very much, I mean, I tell you that the heat is a guilty pleasure, but that stereotype is very much like a lot of the smaller family neighborhoods. They're very straightforward. They say exactly what they want to say when they want to say it. So Karen Reed came off just like anybody that I've almost ever encountered in the Northeast. And that's not a bad thing. I'm not bashing the Northeast at all. I love the Northeast. I'm ready for us to go to Boston to go take a Sox game in. But that, her demeanor, for people that have never been or don't live in that area, her demeanor, again, there's a murder involved. And I get
Allegedly.
that. Allegedly, there's a murder involved. But her demeanor is just like everything I've ever experienced out there.
Well, there's a lot going on here, but when you have a lead investigator commenting on something like that, excuse me, and then commenting on her appearance in a group text, and then he says in a text, in a group text,
oh God,
he said in one message about her, hopefully she kills herself, and then refers to her in another as a whack job cunt.
I mean, to me, that's a, that's kind of a normal, saying, as far as
not for a lead investigator in a homicide investigation.
But he's a dumbass. You don't put anything in writing that you don't think will ever come back to you. It's bad enough that you say something out loud. You don't text it. You don't email it.
A group text.
None of that shit. You don't do that shit. As the great Russ Martin would say, don't be one, don't get called one. This guy is a dumbass.
He really is. But we digress. But going into, we'll just jump far ahead and say Michael Proctor's no longer with the force, but I can't imagine why.
Oh yeah, he got that retirement done quick, and that's part of the problem that people have.
He got fired.
Well,
that's a whole other story, but I can understand Karen Reed's defense team's whole scenario here with, I mean, you just put these things together and it just feels like the whole force right here is crooked or siding with John O'Keefe. And I'm not victim blaming at all. There's a dead man here that didn't deserve this, regardless of what happened, whether she hit him with the car, whether he got drunk and passed out in the snow, whether he got beaten inside of the house and bit by a dog, which it did look like on his arm.
What does the dog have to say about this? Have we put the dog on the stand?
No. Do you know why?
Why?
Well, not only can't dogs talk, dogs can't talk, but the dog was rehomed.
You've never seen Up. Dogs can talk. We do have that technology where we can put the collar on. I've seen it. I believe Pixar.
And that was a good movie.
But of course the dog's been rehomed. The dog, as soon as the dog saw one of them, he was probably growling like, you dipshits, I saw what you did.
You know what kind of dog it was?
No.
kind of dogs do police officers typically have?
German Shepherd?
You got it right.
Was it really?
Yep, Chloe, the German Shepherd.
God damn.
The dog has since been rehomed after it attacked a neighbor in the months after John O'Keefe died.
I want that neighbor put on the stand. That dog is the smartest person that we've talked about this entire podcast. I want that neighbor put on the damn stand because that dog senses that neighbor had something to do with this. Where's that neighbor? I want that neighbor on the stand. I want that. If you are the neighbor, please email Smith Media Team at info@smithmediateamllc.com. Thank you. I want that neighbor on the damn stand.
Oh,
I
wow.
didn't even edit that. That was me being a complete dumbass.
We don't edit.
I'm not the biggest dumbass. As dumb as I've been during this podcast, I'm not even in the top 10 of the dumbasses that we've talked about.
No.
I want that neighbor on the stand. That neighbor knows something.
Oh, there's so many witnesses, so many things to unpack, but I don't know that the neighbor was one of them. But I mean, you've got police officers, and even if they don't find any wrongdoing on, or if this defense doesn't work, let me say that. If this defense doesn't work, you have got to see that these police officers, zero integrity. Zero.
Well, no, because they've been taught. That's, again, I can't say they. I apologize. I didn't say what I said, so screw you guys. There are good police officers and there's bad police officers. What is one of the biggest police organizations across the country?
NYPD.
It's the Fraternal Order
of
Police. Let me go back to English. The word fraternal is brother. Of or like a brother or brothers.
Yeah.
They treat each other like family. If one of them's in trouble.
Well, and then two of them were legit brothers.
Yeah.
And
if one of them's in trouble, the other ones are going to cover up for him, knowing full well that that's against the oath they took. That's part of the problem. This is part of the problem. You've got too much incest in this case. There's way too much.
Yeah, you go from what is a night of hanging out and having a good time to now everybody's in. Y'all were already in everybody's business, but now everybody's in everybody's business because now this is national.
International.
Yeah. So this is an interesting incestual case, and guys, we use that term not in the term that you're in the context that you're going to be thinking, but just like everybody is intertwined. But anyway, as we are sitting here awaiting another verdict, the last that I saw today was that the jury had asked kind of what happens if they can't come to a unanimous verdict. So it's almost like a Groundhog Day effect.
And the sad part is going to be if somehow, some way, because this has happened before, if somehow, some way, Karen Reed was able to contact at least one juror in each of these two cases and start sending flirty texts or nude pictures or whatever the hell she has been doing. And I mean, if you're single, I get it. Do whatever you want. You clearly weren't. And you're flirting with anything that has a tripod, and we don't know if she flirted with her own gender too. But God, at this point, I mean, you've got a second jury that has come to a standstill. They're going to end up in a mistrial. It will be a huge waste of money to go through this a third time. There's no reason. If you've got two juries of her peers that cannot come to a conclusion, there's no reason for a round three on this. It's kind of like the movie Halloween. The first and second one were good. There was absolutely no reason for the third movie. It's one of the 5 worst movies ever. And that's exactly what the Karen Reed case will be if it goes to a third trial. It's going to be an absolute shit show wrapped in a dumpster at an outdoor music festival.
It's already a shit show. Because if memory serves, there was a juror from her first trial that has now been hired onto her defense team.
Oh God.
I know it's a mess, but I guess the point of this was I kind of wanted to shed some light on the defense and why they were going this route with all of the things that have been uncovered with these police officers. And again, I am not bashing police officers. I am one of the first and foremost people that I'm going to stand up for first responders.
But again, like I said, it's like anything. There are
Sure.
good police officers, bad police officers. There are good podcasters. There are bad podcasters. There are good.
And then there's us.
There are good. Shh. She's on to us. There are good priests. There are bad priests. I mean, you can go down that rabbit hole forever.
Sure can.
There's good people and bad people, and we are seeing a lot of bad people in this trial.
We are, and I'm sure they've done a lot of good in their life, but
I sure as hell hope so.
Yeah, but of course, the majority of the things that I was diving into all had to do with the defense. So this is why I kind of wanted to dive into this side of it. Maybe there's going to be another podcast on the prosecution side.
Let's wrap this up. I want to tell you off air about the time that I was standing in Faneuil Hall and I looked north, south, east, and west, and there was a Dunkin' Donuts in every direction. That's a fascinating story. It's more fascinating than this podcast, I think, because I don't think I've ever stood in one spot and seen 4 of the same businesses in every single direction. I swear, I'm telling you, as I'm sitting here, that is the truth when I was there.
Okay, well,
where do you think this is headed? Do you think this is headed to mistrial?
I do think this is probably headed to another mistrial. My opinion, we know what opinions are like. But I would like to hear the opinions of our listeners, especially since we only kind of focused on the defense here and shed the light, probably what everybody already knew, was some of the things that came out about the police officers and their shenanigans.
I would like to know if our listeners were able to follow this podcast with all of my interruptions taking us all over hell and gone. You can email us. That bumper will come shortly. I do. I think this is going to end in a mistrial too. I do. Yeah. And I don't think that we'll ever truly know. I don't think that Karen Reed will ever, on her deathbed, admit to any wrongdoing.
If there's any there, we don't know.
If there is, but I am almost positive that police officer on his deathbed will never admit to any wrongdoing. I think this is one of those that we're going to be seeking the last clue until all of these people are not with us anymore. The Last Clue is a production of Smith Media Team, LLC. If you have any information about this case, would like to discuss another case, or any other comments or questions, please email us at info@smithmediateamllc.com.